Good afternoon, David, and thank you so much for joining me on the Sami Parvez show. Sir, it is always an honor and privilege to have you.
Always nice to be back, Sammy.
Yeah, good to have you, and thank you so much for the last time you shared my video, our interview last time. So I got a big boost. Like it seems like all your followers are switching, also supporting me on my YouTube channel. Thank you.
Well, I always say, Sammy, there's a lot of people on YouTube who are good at nothing except being on YouTube. And if you offer real journalism, people should be responding. And I think you're doing that, and that's what I try to do.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about politics. As before off the screen, as you are saying, like you are very busy. Like writing and doing podcast or live streaming. I would say. So I don't know, like where should we begin? But let's begin with Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump. Is like keeps talking. Like now he's mocking Trudeau that he may not, he would. T- you would take these tariffs as an issue to stay longer, as what you posted on X, that maybe Trump is watching your live streams. So I need to, I know, like last time I after like Trudeau resigned, is I think I heard it from you, not anyone else, that Trudeau intends to resign. Like he did not step down, but he intends. So should we expect that Trudeau is going to resign? Like last time he said that maybe it takes time to do the transition, and then it is up to the new leader. Then yesterday, I think he said that no, he's going to stepping down. So what would you take from it, and what should we expect on Sunday?
I think we can expect Mark Carney to win the Liberal leadership vote on Sunday. Seems to be a foregone conclusion. But I think it's been a race against time for Mark Carney. If this lasted another 2 weeks, I don't think he would win. He's unraveling as we speak because there's nothing there except bad news. Every time you look closely at Mark Carney, you start asking questions about financial irregularities, about his directorships on huge boards, on why he moved his company to the United States, about him lying about the timing of that. There's just so many problems with him, not to mention the problems with his policies, that he's still pushing net zero. He's still pushing a carbon tax on corporations. He's still pushing this incredibly stupid idea of a carbon tariff, which is going to send corporations and businesses out of this country en masse. So I think it's a matter of time before he implodes as the new liberal leader, and God help us as the next prime minister. I think Trudeau will stay around for another week or so, but he can't possibly ignore what his party is doing on Sunday. I just can't see that happening. I think he should have done something sooner. The Liberal Party president could nullify the vote, I suppose, if you look at the party constitution, but I can't see Trudeau viably staying on at this point. And I don't think it makes any difference at this point because Carney is as bad as he is, and he's as poor a negotiator with Donald Trump as Justin Trudeau is. I don't think that's going to make things any different. And that really is the issue for me is how do we get out of this situation we're in? We have another month now for whomever is in charge, and I'm not even going to guess whether it's Trudeau, whether it's Carney, whether it's
Freeland.
possibly even Freeland at this point. I don't know, but whoever it is, they have another month to fix the border in a real way, and they haven't done that. And I've said on your show, and I say it on mine quite frequently, there is a problem at the border. Trudeau did not do anything to fix it. He has a $1.3 billion border fix it plan that doesn't really kick in for 4 years.
Hmm.
Nobody's addressing that. I don't know why I'm talking in a vacuum every time I talk about that because it's in their financial statement. They're not spending a lot of money. There's
Yep.
no 10,000 boots on the ground like the Trudeau promised he was going to put frontline personnel at the border. Hasn't happened. He hasn't even talked about it. And I've talked to various people about where are these 10,000 coming from? Nobody can come up with an answer because there is no answer. There's
Yep.
not 10,000 RCMP. There's not 10,000 provincial police anywhere in any province. There's not 10,000 extra border security guards that just station at the border. And the government has ruled out using the military, the Canadian Armed Forces.
Hmm.
That's where you could get 10,000 people.
Yep.
There's 5 times that many sitting around at their desks that they
Yep.
could be viably employed. And there must be 20,000 at NDHQ, National Defense Headquarters here in Ottawa alone.
Yep.
So, yes, you could find 10,000 military personnel to station at the border, maybe not indefinitely, but at least until we can get through this crisis. And we could start checking the fentanyl supply in this country. And we're not doing that. 1% is because we're only checking 1%. I keep telling people it's coming in at the port of Vancouver, and various investigative journalists have done some excellent work on this matter, including Sam Cooper, who I've had on my show a couple of times. Wonderful work revealing, exposing the extent of the drug problem in Canada, and it's not being accepted or listened to by the Trudeau government.
Hmm. Yeah, but first of all, I need to ask you, like, will a Trudeau be a caucus member, whether it's a Carney or Freeland?
Oh, well, he'll be a caucus member until the next election.
No, like, will he
He,
take any portfolio, like a
oh, well,
minister?
that's I that's a it's a good question because it's going to be a short-lived government, one way or the other. I cannot see this government lasting long. So it's a caretaker government essentially. And I think Trudeau, once he leaves the office of prime minister, will be interested in nothing else in Canada. He's certainly going to be looking to the WEF or the United
Yes.
Nations for his next job.
Yep.
But I don't think he's interested in serving under anybody in this country, whether it's Mark Carney or Chrystia Freeland. And I mean, Karina Gould isn't even in hope of winning. But no, I can't see him wanting to be subservient to any other prime minister.
Mm-hmm. And is there any chances for Chrystia Freeland to win this leadership race on Sunday?
I thought there was a good chance of Ruby Dalla winning the, but they booted her out because she said things they didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Chrystia Freeland might have a chance because things are so crazy right now, and nobody's crazier than Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah.
She's talking about using nuclear weapons against the United States, British nuclear weapons. She wants Britain to back up Canada in some sort of nuclear contest with the United States. This is incredibly stupid, even to talk about it, because in the first place, Britain has already got itself into a lot of trouble by posturing with Russia, saying it's going to attack Russia if Russia doesn't do what they want in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Britain is on the verge of collapse. A lot of people don't even understand this, and I don't mean to meander too far from Chrystia Freeland, but I think it's necessary to say, what is Freeland talking about? Is she even rational? But she thinks Britain can somehow stand between Canada and the U.S. with its nuclear weapons. Britain has, if Britain wants to attack Russia or fight Russia, it's going to need every nuclear weapon it has. And Britain doesn't even have a viable armed forces anymore, and it's on the verge of complete economic collapse. The Bank of England could fall within weeks. That's how bad things are in Britain. Most people don't
Oh.
even understand that. Chrystia Freeland was a finance minister. She should have known. She should know that. Britain is not going to come to Canada's defense. They can't even save themselves. But could she win? Yeah, things are that crazy right now in this country because we're all talking from the same script. Well, a lot of people are talking the same. No, I'm not. You're not. Mainstream media, all the political parties, with the exception of Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, are all reading from the same script, which is we're going to keep Ukraine going until the very bitter end. and we're going to fight the United States with counter tariffs. And that's the script right now.
mm,
And people aren't even thinking about the fact that the war in Ukraine is over in the first place. But secondly, even more important for Canada, is that we cannot go toe to toe with the United States in a trade war and hope to somehow win or even alleviate the consequences. Because the more duties, the more tariffs we put on as a result of counter tariffs, we get reciprocal tariffs back from the United States. It's like a tax. It's like a 75% tax on Canadians. That's what these counter tariffs are going to produce. And unfortunately, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party are in lockstep with the Liberals on this, and they're talking the same stupid talk. So to get back to your original question, is it possible for Chrystia Freeland to win? Yes, anything's possible right now because the talk and the talking points are outrageously absurd. And I can't remember it. Well, I can. It was called COVID. That's when everybody was talking about we had to lock people down. We had to have two-tiered justice system, some with those with vaccines and those with not. And we had to imagine that somehow this vaccine was completely safe and effective. And if you didn't have it, you had to be isolated from the rest of society. We were just there, what, 3 years ago. We're
mm,
back there again now with tariffs. And we need to get away from this. And Pierre Poilievre, I can't say this enough. He's got to develop an independent voice.
mm.
Stop talking like Justin Trudeau. Stop using the liberal talking points, or he is in danger of losing this next election. Because
Yep.
as you know, as you alluded to, and Donald Trump knows it too.
Mm,
This trade war is all about the Liberal Party winning the next election because
yep.
it's going to be liberal, whether it's Carney or whether it's Trudeau again or whether it's whomever, against Donald Trump, not against Pierre Poilievre.
Yep.
And Pierre Poilievre will be reduced to echoing what the Liberal Party says because he's put himself in a very difficult position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So like I know like there are things we are just mixing them up, but I mean there are lots of issues. Like as you said, like just we cannot cover all of them at one day. Uh. So we like liberals are jumping in the polls, like suddenly since Trudeau stepped down, but those are not every polls are saying like Abacus particularly are not is not suggesting what other pollsters are saying. But I need to ask you, like, is a thing said that he's just flip flopping, like he just does not stand on one point. Sometimes he says he would like vote against this government. Sometimes they say no, he's not going to vote in the no confidence. So where do we stand first? Well, Mark Carney is going to call an election as early on, maybe like I think Brian Lilly was saying he would call it until March 14th, if I'm not wrong. He said he's hearing like that. So what would you take from it, and where do you think, like, if he does not call it, so do you think Singh would support like conservative motion for no confidence?
Anybody's guess with Jagmeet Singh. I don't know from one day to the next where he's going to fall on non-confidence motions and non-confidence votes because on Monday he's a different Jagmeet Singh than he is on Wednesday, and
Mm-hmm.
he has been wrapped up like a pretzel on this issue for the last 6 months. Ever since he said he tore up the agreement with the liberals, he's propping them up, and yet the next week he'll say we're going to bring these they don't deserve to be the government. We're going to bring them down. Same thing happened when Justin Trudeau resigned.
Yeah.
First of all, it was, well, now's the opportunity. How dare they prorogue the parliament? Well, as soon as we get back, we're going to vote against it. Then it's no, we have to consider the legislation first, and then we'll carefully consider whether or not we want to bring this government down. And so I think the man is a clown. I think he's an absolute joke. Every time he opens his mouth, he
Mm-hmm.
contradicts himself. I can't take him seriously. But what it's all about looking at the polls and Jagmeet Singh saying, "Hey, holy hell, I'm down to 12%, maybe 10.
Yeah.
I could get wiped out in certain spots, and I'm behind in my own seat in Burnaby. I could lose my own seat. So it used to be a question of Jagmeet's pension, sticking around long enough for the pension. Now he's wondering, well, no, do I want an election when I'm going to be trounced? And I'm probably losing, I'm hemorrhaging support to the liberals. That's where the support is going to some degree. So he's looking at it very strategically in terms of whether or not he can survive and his party can survive. And that's why he makes no sense from one day to the next, because he hasn't got the honesty to say, "Hey, folks, this is all about power politics. Do you understand? It's all about whether I can win or lose, and it's nothing to do with principle at all. I have no principle." If he could come out and say that, I think everybody would say, "Oh, now I understand Jagmeet Singh.
Mhm.
Oh, he has no principles. He has nothing about cares nothing except for power. I get it. Okay." And then everybody would understand Jagmeet. So but in terms of will Mark Carney call an early election? I think he will, because, as I said earlier, the longer he stays in public view, the worse he looks.
Mhm.
Because not just in terms of his policies, but in terms of his personal business decisions. And the guy has the personality of a reptile. He is absolutely impossible to engage with in any meaningful way. His audiences are always small. She's once again, it reminds me of Kamala Harris, where they used to say she's attracting hundreds of thousands of people come to these rallies. It was all AI. It was, and I've seen the same thing with Mark Carney pictures on X. These photos are manufactured.
Mhm.
There's maybe 100 people in the room, but they've made it look like 1,000 to 2,000 people,
Yep.
and he's not attracting large crowds. I don't believe for a minute that there's some sort of euphoria for Mark Carney, like Carney mania, because they said that twice about Pierre Trudeau. There was Trudeau mania in '68, and there was just the Trudeau mania in 2015. I
Mhm.
don't see it for Mark Carney. The guy has got no personality at all,
Mhm.
and if people are stupid enough to think, oh, we need a guy who was a failure at the Bank of England to be our next prime minister. So I don't see it, but I do think he'll call an early election, because the longer he's in front of the public, the shorter his past due date becomes.
Yep. But right now, as I said earlier, like some polls are suggesting that liberals could like conservative can't when cannot make a majority, like what they've been for over a year. But after Trudeau resigned, so things are changing. But in the past, we also saw like back in 1984 when Trudeau resigned. So the other leader, like the numbers bump, like so liberal got a boost, but suddenly when they called an election, we know like what happened at that time. Brian Maloney like uh, lead Canada for a decade. Then also like when Kim Campbell, like then Brian Maloney resigned, Kim Campbell took the help of Conservative Party. Then the Conservative boost up, but when they went to an election, so they fell down. Like for then for John
Yeah.
Christian then was the like Prime Minister of Canada for over a decade. Like the polls are always, it seems like they are not accurate every time, like particularly
No.
whenever a leader resigns. So should we expect the same thing at this time, or things could be different at this time, like as like so right now, like liberals got a boost? Maybe if Mark Carney would win and call an election, do you think the polls are suggesting whatever they are now, would they remain like this, or it was just like, it
Well,
could be?
as you say, the polls are very complicated right now. They're
Yep.
extremely contradictory right now, because I saw a poll 3 days ago with the Conservatives 20 points ahead. 2 days later, like yesterday, there's a poll out saying that they're tied, Liberals and Conservatives. Now, there's something wrong with the poll. We've realized for quite some time that polling can be horribly inaccurate.
Yep.
I tend to trust Abacus, because I know David Coletto from my time at Sun News, where he was the official pollster for Sun at that time. I think he's generally more accurate, and I think his polls are more accurate in terms of where the Conservatives are. But there's no question there has been some bleeding of support. He's Polyev is not in the position he was 2 months ago. When exactly 2 months ago, actually, January 6th, Justin Trudeau announced he was resigning. When Justin Trudeau announced he was resigning, Polyev was anywhere from 20, 25 points ahead. I don't think we're going to see Mark Carney continue to lead as he's in some polls are suggesting he's leading or even tied. I don't believe he's even close to that right now. But even if he was, you have to go back and you historically noted Tim Campbell was totally destroyed by
Yep.
Jean Chrétien and John Turner. He was considered the glory boy of the Liberal Party, and I'm old enough to remember that. John Turner was every liberal's alternative to Pierre Trudeau. He was the guy that was going to save the party,
Mhm.
keep it in power, and he got decimated by Brian Mulroney and
Yep.
the largest majority in history. And you have to go back to 1968 when Pierre Trudeau took over the leadership of the Liberal Party, and Lester Pearson had been the leader for 5 years, and he had two back-to-back minority governments. Pierre Trudeau came in and won a huge majority in 1968. You have to go back that far to where a governing party changes leaders after being in government for quite a few years, and that new leader keeps them in power. It rarely ever happens because people say we want change.
Mhm.
And whether it's liberal or conservative change, the populace says, no, we're not going to give you one more mandate. You've just been there, you've done it. Why are you going to be any different? Whether your name's Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau, especially when you're espousing the same policies. So I don't see Mark Carney winning. No.
Mhm. So, what did Pierre Poulier do wrong? Like why he dropped in the polls? What do you analyze or what do you take from his like activities or whatever he's saying or did?
Well, I'll give you three reasons, and I've been talking about these all week on my own station. What he's done wrong is pander to Ukraine. Canadians, especially conservative Canadians, are sick to death
Mm.
of pandering to Ukraine and sending billions of dollars to Zelensky. Just like Republicans in the United States have said, enough, stop. We need peace in this war. Stop funding this war. Polyev insists upon standing up with Ukraine along with Justin Trudeau, and conservatives hate it. And he will not listen. He will not listen. And that's because there's a fear of alienating this all powerful Ukrainian Canadian vote that's very strong in certain regions of the country. And my ancestry is Ukrainian, so I can say this without being accused of being actually Ukrainian. But that's what's going on with Pierre Poilievre in the Ukraine situation. Secondly, he is doing his best to say, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a MAGA person. Good. Tell me I'm not a MAGA person. That's alienating his grassroots who like Donald Trump. He keeps saying that, and he is voicing the same insane talking points as Justin Trudeau about retaliatory tariffs. Hit them hard, like Doug Ford is talking about. Doug Ford is a maniac, talking about shutting off the power to Northeast United States. I mean, that's almost an act of war.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my people I interviewed this week, pointed that out to me, and I really hadn't thought of that. You shut the power off to a whole region of the country. You're going to shut the power off to traffic lights, to hospitals. People are going to die.
Yeah.
That's a completely stupid and irresponsible thing to say. But Doug Ford is a completely stupid and irresponsible man who just had an election because he knew he had better have it now because he's probably going to lose if he holds on any longer. So, but he took this as a mandate to continue to talk stupid, and that's what he's doing. And unfortunately, Pierre Poilievre should be saying, distancing himself from Doug Ford, talking more like Danielle Smith, who's a much more accommodating, and saying we can't fight the Americans. Donald Trump's doing a lot of good things, and we should be talking about those things. And we need to get over this. No, tariffs are bad. Tariffs are awful. Trade war is terrible. We need to find a solution. The solution is not to pretend we can win a trade war. And,
Mm-hmm.
and Trudeau's there, as I've said 100 times, only because he wants this to be the issue that wins him
Issue.
the election or wins the Liberal Party the election. But there's a lot to be mad about. And the third thing I want to mention, he should be going on your show, Sammy. He should be going on social media. He should be going on independent media.
Yeah.
I invited Pierre Polyev on my show this week, and I thought it was almost a done deal. And like I said, I have known Pierre Polyev. No, we're not the best of friends, but I knew him before he was even an MP. He knows me. He knows I'm a small C conservative. It's going to be a fairly softball question period. And they came back to me and said, no, we can't do it. Just can't do it. Not appropriate. And I don't know if you ever watched Patrick Bet David, who is a huge YouTuber in the States. Millions of people watch this guy every day. And he invited Pierre Polyev onto his show. And Pierre Polyev said no. And this guy said, what's wrong with Pierre Polyev? Doesn't he know he can't take anything for granted? He needs to go on independent media. He needs
Yep.
to go on YouTube Rumble shows
Yep.
and talk to people. And because that's where the audience is these days. If he thinks he's going to reach his audience on CBC
Mm-hmm.
or on his own YouTube channel,
Yep.
no, he's not. He needs to go on these shows and to talk about his policies and to face questions.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're not always going to be the most difficult questions, but occasionally they will be.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to answer those questions because people who vote for him or who could potentially vote for him are watching stations like this. They're watching independent news.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he needs to be. But he won't be. I mean, I'm on Redacted every week with Clayton and Natalie Morris. He won't go on Redacted. Probably won't go on Redacted. Maxime Bernier has been on Redacted twice now in the last couple of weeks. He doesn't mind going on these shows. He's got absolutely nothing to lose to talk about his policies. Polyev doesn't either. And that's what's wrong with the Conservative Party. I used to work with Conservative MPs, and it's the same story today as it was then. Just moderate your message. Just be careful what you say. Don't talk to conservative journalists because they'll ask you embarrassing questions. They'll box you in. And so just go to the liberal press. Stay with the CBC, Global News, CTV, the Globe and Mail. Just keep answering their questions in a combative way, but don't just dismiss that conservative media out there because they're in the bag for you already. And the people who watch them have no other alternative. They'll vote conservative. Don't worry. Well, we know in the past that doesn't happen. In 2015, people were so mad at Stephen Harper.
Yep.
We were so mad, conservatives were so mad at Stephen Harper. We're so mad at his communications team that isolated him during the whole campaign. And it ran a campaign basically of, we won't respond to that. Thank you very much. They stayed home in droves. Conservative voters just didn't go out and vote. That could happen to Polyev. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very big danger. And I'm going to keep saying that because I don't want the Liberals to win the next election,
Yep.
but I want Polyev to earn it. And he's not
Yep.
doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I thought I'm the only one. He does not give interviews, so it is very sad to hear that he refused your invitation because I contacted them multiple times. Then I thought like, is they are not responding or they even though they did not say they declined it, but they said like we received it, forwarded it to Pierre Poulier office, but then I did not hear back. Though I contacted them multiple times, so they did not come back. I
Well,
said done.
Sammy, don't feel bad. He says the same thing to the biggest YouTube stations
Yeah,
in North America. So he says
I
no to everybody.
yeah, I don't take it otherwise because I'm a small journalist, like I have a small audience, like maybe thousand of them, like people watch my maybe the views I get, like they are sometimes just 100 or 200, sometimes it goes like 1,000 or 2,000 because they don't show up. So I made some rules that I should not approach to these big tent parties. I should go through like small parties or like small like independent candidate or like leader like not Mark Carney, Maxim Bernier, who gave me interview twice. I'm just approaching, like these things happen. But yeah, as you said, like he should be very careful, like should choose independent media and big YouTuber like what you named. But I don't know like what's going on, and we all need a change, like we are sick and tired with liberal government, though we may not be a fan of Pierre Polier, but we need a change, and the change comes from this guy to win the next election. Okay, so let's talk about little bit tariffs. So Trump now saying that he's going to put 250% tariff on dairy, and as you said, like Doug Ford said, he's going to turn off the electricity to a complete state. And also, he's like putting 25% tariff on electricity. But that it means the consumer would pay the price. But I need to ask you, like, their deal, like USMCA, and also it seems like the Trump, when he speaks with Mexican president, his tone is completely changed. He said he respect her, like
Yeah.
he's listening, he's doing more. But when it comes to Trudeau, he's mocking him, like he said that Trudeau is just staying because he wants to, he's making this issue and win the next election, and he wants to stay around. So it seems like something different, and we know like they both at each other, like. But so what would you take like after April 2nd? Now tariffs are passed, but he's saying that he's going to put tariffs on dairy as well. So what would happen like now onward or after April 2nd?
Well, Trump loves to talk about the dairy thing, and the most powerful lobby in Canada is the dairy lobby. And that it's the dairy lobby actually that won the conservative leadership for totally forgot his name, but he beat Maxime Bernier because Bernier would not support the dairy lobby. Dairy lobby went after Bernier and his main opponent, uh, former Speaker of the House. Why can't I think of his name? It's
Andrew
terrible.
Scheer.
Anyway,
Andrew Scheer.
yeah, Andrew Scheer. Yes, Andrew Scheer won because he basically told the dairy industry they can have whatever they want. So Trump loves to talk about this, but I mean, we're not America does not buy Canadian cheese, and we don't buy American. It's really a red herring, the whole thing. But what's scary about this whole potential trade war is that it's going to push the prices inflation up uh, potentially as high as 5 or 10% higher, and it's going to put the price of basic food out of the reach of a lot of people. I don't think people understand this, and 25% is bad enough. But if we retaliate with 25%, Trump will come back with a reciprocal 25%. That's 75%. Plus, the carbon tax is coming in on April 1st. That's 90, well, 75, 85, 96%. I mean, that is mind boggling. But if this all comes together, it's going to be unaffordable and it's going to lead to an economic catastrophe like the Great Depression in Canada. So we can't go here. And I would think Trudeau would try a little harder and he would stop making stupid statements about Donald Trump, which he just can't help himself. Every time he opens his big dumb mouth, he's got to say something negative about Donald Trump not being very smart or the dumb thing to do,
Done
Donald.
tariff.
And and does he really think Donald Trump's been president for the last 8 years? He keeps saying, "I've been working with you for the last 8 years." Donald Trump just became president. He was just reelected. Where is Justin Trudeau's brain? And he somehow missed the. It was Joe Biden he was working with for the past 4 years, not Donald Trump. So I don't know, what Trudeau hopes to achieve except failure. He's setting the country up for failure every time. We can't get rid of him fast enough. I think anybody could be a better choice to talk to Donald Trump. But clearly, Donald Trump despises Justin Trudeau. And of course, apparently the conversation got so bad, it's so heated. the last time that Trump swore at him. I don't know what that was. And that apparently was just too much for poor Justin. And even thinking about that phone call, he just had to break down and start crying in front of the camera. And at that point, I just wanted to kick his ass so hard because I am so sick of this crybaby prime minister getting in front of the camera, getting all weepy and saying, I'm here for you people. I'm looking for your back. This guy is such a fraudster. He's such a con man. He's so fraudulent. He's so phony. I I can't get rid of this guy fast enough because he is an embarrassment. And he's causing this problem. He's prolonging this problem. He's extenuating this problem. He's exacerbating this problem. And he knows he is. And if Canadians can't see that, then take another look because he wants this thing to get worse. And he doesn't care if we lose a million jobs in the process. Because what is he going to do? The Liberals are going to offer another stipend, just like they did during COVID. They're going to offer you another little piece of welfare every month. And that's how they control you. And that's why they want this to happen because they're moving Canada towards socialism gradually, and they love crises because they can use crises to bring down authoritarian government and socialist economics, and they'll do it again if this trade war goes through.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. Uh, but like we know, like the carbon tax will increase on April 1st. Also, like these MPs will get a boost or bump on their paycheck. But no one is talking about it. So, should we
No.
expect any talks about that at all? Any?
Well, Paulia was talking about the carbon tax quite a bit. Now, nothing. But he never wants to talk about that MP salary raise, which is
Mhm.
automatic now.
Yeah.
They used to have to at least vote on it so they would publicly be shamed. Because I remember working in the House on the days that the MPs had to vote. And of course, they had to literally stand up and say, yeah, I'll take another $3,000 a year. Now they don't. It's just automatic. And
Mhm.
it reminded me of the heritage minister, Sanong, talking about, well, look, we shouldn't have to vote on CBC's budget either. We're just going to double it without voting for it because it's just the right thing to do. That's how MPs feel about their salaries, by the way. It's just the right thing to do. Keep giving them more money. and,
Mhm.
and I find it very frustrating because all of us are finding it harder to make the same amount of money. MPs get a guaranteed salary and a guaranteed raise every bloody year, and it is absolutely beyond the means of most Canadians.
Mhm. So, what's your prediction? What will happen like after March 10th?
Well, I honestly thought Justin Trudeau would never resign, so I appear to be wrong about that. I still haven't given up. I think Mark Carney will win. I think he'll probably spend about 2 weeks with Justin Trudeau behind the scenes. Justin Trudeau will map out his future career. I think he'll leave the House of Commons by summer. He might stay around for a couple of months as an MP, rarely being seen in the House of Commons. He'll be an absentee MP. He was an absentee prime minister, but he'll be an absentee MP, working on his second or third career. And mustn't forget his lustrous career as a drama coach. And he'll be working on his third career. Mark Carney will call a very early election, and I think Poilievre will win, but not to the degree he should have won. And I think we'll finally be looking at broad sunlit horizons again at some point when we get past this liberal government. And I think Poilievre, once he becomes prime minister, will drop the facade of I hate Donald Trump just as much as you do, and he can actually negotiate with Donald Trump. And I think Trump will see him in a better light. Trump doesn't like Poilievre right now because he sees him as mealy mouthed and compromising and unable to articulate a clear conservative vision, which is true at times. But I think there will be a meeting of the minds and spirits when Poilievre becomes prime minister. And I think we'll be looking at much, much better economic future. We just have to get through this crisis right now without it going the way the liberals want it to go, which is chaos. They
Mhm.
want chaos. They want catastrophe. They want us to suffer so they can provide their solution. Just like they welcomed COVID. They want to provide their statist socialist solution. And that's what they want to do. But I don't think they're going to get the chance this time.
Mhm. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share? I did not ask you about any issue.
I'm thinking that what this country needs right now, as much as anything, is a new election. So, and I think one of the primary problems right now is that there's so much happening. Like literally, while I was waiting to go on a broadcast yesterday at 4:30, I was watching the news, and every half hour it changed. And it was about a half an hour before I went on the broadcast that I could absolutely confirm that Canada had been included with Mexico with the deferment of the tariff. And there's so much going on right now that we don't know what to focus on. And we need to focus on the main thing, which is new election, get Parliament back. Now, we didn't talk about this at all, but the federal court
Yeah.
last night at nine
Yeah.
o'clock, they ruled that Trudeau was quite proper, quite it was quite okay to prorogue Parliament for the reasons he did, which are entirely political, but that's okay. It was his right to do that. Now, we're not going to get back to Parliament any sooner. So we're going to have to live with this until March 24th. But I do think we're going to have an early election. But whatever happens, we need to push for that early election because that needs to be job one. Get an early election, get rid of this corrupt, invasive liberal government and have it replaced. We need a new election. That's got to be the priority. There's so much news going on right now. So much is happening on a daily basis. It's hard to catch your breath at times, but that's got to be our focus.
Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, I wanted to ask you with that. I forgot about that last night decision of the court with respect to Trudeau broke the parliament. Yep. Okay.
That's very disturbing. I find
Yeah.
that very deeply disturbing
Yeah.
that a judge would make that decision because that opens the door now for any government. And I'm not saying it's okay for the conservatives to do it, but not for the liberals. I don't want any government not recognizing the supremacy of parliament and thinking they can govern from the cabinet, from the executive alone. And I made this point on my show this morning. This is a total refutation of the entire tradition of Westminster, of the parliamentary system we have taken from the United Kingdom. This is a refutation of 500 years of parliamentary supremacy. And it is outrageous to think you can govern a country by a cabinet alone without the appeal to Parliament and without the support of Parliament. It's called responsible government. Every grade schooler used to learn about that in grade 8 or 9. I don't know if they do anymore. I did, but that's what Canada was all about: responsible government, because that's what the United Kingdom, Great Britain, was all about: responsible government. And we're not there, as far as I'm concerned, after this judgment. I find it very problematic and very deeply disturbing.
Yep. Okay, thank you so much once again, Mr. Krayden, for joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It was great discussion and more come on every day, as you said. But we have more on Sunday. Maybe we will have another talk on Monday. Maybe I don't know like when,
Well,
but we will
I,
have
I,
it.
I can do that. I can
Okay,
do
thank
that
you,
because
sir.
this is
I appreciate
I'll
it.
be talking about that all week. So
Mm,
yeah, I can do that.
yeah, we will take a time. Okay, sir. Until then, you please take a good care and have a good weekend and
All
good
right.
evening. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.